Earth debate live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by OK Computer, Neil, Eli, and a whole bunch of people in the Flat Earth Debate Discord server. So, welcome one and all. Try that again. Welcome one and all.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Good morning.
Hello.
Very well. Enthusiastic start. I think there was a unanimous decision that we should at least continue to do one, maybe two housekeeping questions a day. So with that in mind, any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth? What about
How would you get that evidence? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, ideally in the 10-second silence would have been better, but go ahead, Moop.
Sorry. How would you get that evidence? Because I'm looking. So even the hole dug is like 7 miles down. So how would we even get the evidence to actually prove that?
Well, I mean, it's not our burden to prove anything, but they don't have any evidence to prove their claim. I think that's the point you're driving at. Where would we get it? I don't make a claim about it. I don't have to make any evidentiary standard fulfillment when it comes to the molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. So there's a presupposed sphere Earth with a presupposed spherical core generating magnetism. You haven't proven any of that, have you? Well, let's look at the origins of where their measurements for this assertion come from. Well, they come from a flat Earth. So you've got a flat Earth measurement and then a sphere Earth inference and then a begging the question assertion that you've got a core inside it. I mean, they've got their story too. They've got Thea. Right, their version of why there is this molten iron core that's not been proven is that a planet called Thea smashed into Earth that was smaller at the time with a smaller core and deposited its molten iron core into Earth's, making Earth larger and the debris forming the moon with gravitational accretion. That's why we've got an oversized, in their rhetoric, molten iron core in the heliocentric world that is reified into existence after taking flat Earth measurements. I mean, it's all nonsense. Earth's measured flat. Any scientific evidence of gravity? Is it because you're all having a think about it, or will I start talking and get interrupted with a question from you enthusiastic lot? I'll take that as a no then, shall I? Okay, it's like talking to a brick wall. I guess we'll get on with covering a video today, because none of my panel, who have been chatting away quite happily until we started the live show, they've all obviously gone to sleep since we've clicked the live button. What can you do? Such is life. Anyway, we are going to be covering...
I'm a noisy store, so I can't help you.
You can help by interrupting, though. Thank you for that. Once I've got hold of the reins, Neil's decided he wants to take hold of them rather than the projected silence. Protracted, not projected. Okay, right. We are going to be covering a video anyway today. So because it's so hot, I'm only working on one monitor, which does mean that things are going to take a little bit longer to shuffle around into place, but I'm pretty sure I can do that now. So, by popular demand, that is to say that one person asked if I would cover it, we're going to be covering Creaky. So I'll stick a link, as I always do, to Creaky's video, so you can let him know, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, and leave a polite, that is to say, please don't swear, don't give the videographer any reason to delete your comment. If they do, it's obviously very telling. But nevertheless, help Creaky in the algorithmic love, where we as flat earthers receive no algorithmic love. The idea being that if Creaky, or anybody else that we cover for that matter, were to respond, the hope would be that they'd put a link to our video. So, with that in mind, please let him know that we've covered his video. I have absolutely no idea what's in this video, because I've not watched it. I was assured by Liam that he had, and it was worth covering, so hopefully that's given you in the audience enough time to actually toddle along to Creaky's video. And as I say, let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Has anybody else seen this video? Just a no will do, lads. I mean, you could boycott answering me altogether. That's fine too. What's going on?
Just wait, you're
I
gonna.
had to look at it.
Seriously, what's going on?
I haven't looked at it, mate.
No. Separate question. Why am I not getting any responses? You're all chatting happily in the live, in the pre-show before the live show started. I start, ask a few direct questions that just need a yes or no answer. Zero reply from anybody. What's going on?
I did reply, and was told don't interrupt.
Yeah, ideally, the reply comes after the question, not after a 10-second silence where I've picked up the baton having had no reply, then I get my reply. That's no good. Shout out to Crypto Moona. What a name. Just joined as a hyena. I can't put the chat up. I'm really sorry to show the audience the live chat. You'll have to just go into the chat manually if you want to see the subscribers and members super chats today, I'm afraid, because I haven't got my second monitor up. It's just too hot. So running a projector in this heat is just suicidal. It's not a good idea. And I'm in a much better mood for only being at 30C rather than 35. Anywho, yeah, we're going to cover this video. So I'm sure a few people have actually gone along and actually left the comment and come back. So should we get straight into it? If nobody's watched it, we'll find out what it's all about shortly, I guess.
Is no flat earth model. I didn't agree to any flat earth model. I don't know how we could have a flat earth model when none of this has been fully explored to make the determination about anything in our reality, right?
I agree with you. I think that's the most honest stance to take, love, which is to say you haven't agreed to any model, and we phrase it, well, you're forcing this straw man model onto us. But yeah, I can completely get behind a sentiment. Anybody disagree with anything she just said?
No, not at all.
No.
No? Okay, pretty unanimous in that response. Finally. Getting replies at my own panel. Good.
No.
There is a gentleman named Will Duffy. He is a pastor from Colorado. He is a heliocentrist.
Yeah, but heliocentrism is an astronomical model in which the Earth and planets revolve around the sun at the center of the universe. And I thought you were all claiming that what the sun does in the sky has no impact on the shape of the Earth, so...
I mean, in some respects, depending on the context of the discussion, yeah, but depending on what you're doing with it. If you're laying out these maps by measuring elevation angles to the sun and plotting its positional data, then you can make reference to how you've dealt with that sun to give you that reference data on maps that are only useful for travelling on the ground. So, at best it's a correlation, but in terms of how we acquire these navigational instruments like maps is by measuring Earth flat. That's just a fact. So, does the sun directly tell you the shape of the Earth? No. Does a measurement of the Earth as a flat plane with respect to the sun give you any idea about Earth? Well, you've just measured it flat. So I would say yes. Just depends on the context of the question.
Which is it? Either it does or it doesn't, and you can't say it doesn't and then use it to try and prove your position correct, because that would be disingenuous.
And at some point he came into the flat earth, globe earth discussion, right? Now, from what I understand...
I'm going to give props to Will Duffy. The fact that you have got this many people talking about you is absolutely outstanding. And someone's going to be in the chat going, my God, Nathan's giving you... Yeah, I am. I've got my YouTube hat on. I'm going, as in terms of how to market an idea, take a look at what Will Duffy's doing. Now, don't get me wrong. I appreciate that he's generating disdain in some people and hardened support in others. On both sides of the camp, you've got both sides of the attitude. Well, either way, there's no such thing as bad publicity. Everybody's talking about what he's doing. You can only give him praise and props for achieving that in a very short period of time. You know, that's pretty amazing. So credit where credit's due, Will Duffy. You've got this lady and lots of others talking about you, including us. Well done.
And he takes frequent trips to Antarctica. I don't know if that's for his job or what it's for. I heard that through someone else. So if I'm wrong about that, you can correct me, but that's what I heard.
But you just said yourself that Will is a pastor. What possible reason would there be for a pastor to make frequent trips to Antarctica? But just in case I'm wrong, I'm going to send Will a message and double check. I'll let you know later in the video.
Hello, Will. Creaky here. I just wanted to verify something with you. Am
I missing something? What's the relevance of this precisely? Can someone fill me in on what I'm missing? What's the issue?
It sounds like you're finding something to complain about.
We're just clarifying whether or not Will's been there or not. Is that it? Okay.
I could, sir. I'm making a video about a lady who says that you spend all your time in Antarctica. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't think you've ever been.
Did she say all your time in Antarctica, or did Creaky just misrepresent what she said?
He misrepresented.
Mike's a bit of a train wreck.
Is it?
That's better.
And she also said she's not sure.
Let's just listen to what she actually said again.
And he takes frequent trips to Antarctica.
That sounded like he takes frequent trips to Antarctica. Creaky just asked about a lady who's asking about why he'd spend all his time in Antarctica.
I'm going to send Will a message and double check. I'll let you know later in the video.
Hello, Will. Creaky here. I just wanted to verify something with you, if I could, sir. I'm making a video about a lady who says that you spend all your time.
All your time? These people are just liars, aren't they? I don't think she said that. I mean, unless you can show me where she said all. It wasn't in your video. You'd think if she'd said that and you wanted to reference it, you'd put that bit in your video.
In Antarctica. And as far as I'm concerned,
As far as you're concerned, she said all.
don't think you've ever been. Could you please confirm or deny?
Now, apparently he has a trip coming up. And so he had the bright idea to...
Where's his response? where's him confirming or denying this?
I don't know. I was
Maybe it comes
for that
later.
Too.
Say again.
Nah, I was waiting for that too. It looked like, from what I saw, it looked like he had a response there. I don't know.
take a flat earther and a globe earther to Antarctica to see if there is a 24-hour sun down there or not.
Yeah, that's all they'll achieve. Is there or is there not a 24-hour sun in Antarctica will be the question that's answered. Okay. Hands up who asked that question here. Hands up who thinks the question that's being asked is the Earth a globe or is the Earth flat?
The
Should be
question
everyone.
is there a 24-hour sun in Antarctica?
That's all that's being established, isn't it?
Please
subscribe.
All right.
Say again, Chocolate.
Sorry, both the glober and the flat earther that goes down there would have to measure Earth flat anyway. So
Yeah, that's our stance.
Ooh, Will's replied.
Hey, Creaky, Will here. Thanks for reaching out. No, I have never been to Antarctica. It's fascinating to me, but ever since starting the final experiment, people like to just make things up.
Now then, I'm having a lot of fun making these videos about the final experiment. One or two people are complaining in the comment section that I may be slightly overdoing it, but I don't think so. Think about it. We've all been waiting for years for flat earthers to talk about something new, and
New? We covered this 10 years ago. Oh, really?
wait a minute. Isn't it his side that's giving him something new to talk about?
Yeah, his side's giving him something new that we were talking about 10 years ago. So please feel free to check out my interview with Robert Shortman. done off the back of my entry into this subject, where 10 years ago we were contemplating whether or not there would be a 24-hour sun, when we assessed the false dichotomy about whether or not, when assuming you're antipodal on the bottom of a ball, you'll observe a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. Then we came across a guy who'd spent 18 months in total down there, and he said there wasn't. So we moved on with our lives. I mean, since then, there's been plenty of people focusing on the fakery of a 24-hour sun down there. What? The fakery of it produces some sort of ambiguity. Currently, if you're in the north, you can observe a 24-hour sun. It's really easy to observe. It's easy to film. You can broadcast it. Down in Antarctica, they're publishing TikTok videos. They've got internet, but what? We've got to fake the videos, and yes, they have to be edited because blah, blah, blah reasons. You guys are concerned whether or not there's 24 hours of sun in Antarctica. But the idiots that listen to Duffy assume that that will prove something. Well, it'll prove whether or not there's a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, and that's about it.
Now they are. But going back to the question I asked you, just not you, this lady who definitely can't hear or see what I'm doing. But anyway, the question was, why do you think Will Duffy is taking people to Antarctica for the final experiment?
Okay. I mean, assessing it, what? Her understanding of what Will Duffy's laid out. I just did, didn't I? Will Duffy sold the idea that this will prove whether or not Earth's a ball or flat when he assumes antipodal positioning for a globe and stacks it in false dichotomy against an azimuthal equidistant globe projection. So he's got a globe projection against a globe reification. That's what he's doing. Meanwhile, what's he actually assessing? He's assessing whether or not there's a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. So it's got sod all to do with the globe projection versus the globe reification, and everything to do with whether or not there will be a 24-hour sun in a particular location. But currently, it seems that there isn't.
What he thinks this is going to prove is he thinks that if there is a 24-hour sun, it means we live on a globe.
No. As laid out by myself, my darling. An antipodal assumption comes before the affirming the consequent observation. So if I assume when I travel to the south, I am antipodal, but in layman's terms, hanging upside down from where I started. If I make that assumption that in this location called Antarctica, I am dangling on the bottom of a ball, then when I observe 24-hour sun, it will confirm my assumption that I'm antipodal. That's it. What's he actually observing? The sun. So he'll tell us what the sun does in Antarctica. The addition of if we're on a ball is part of an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy that we've pointed out since day one. He's a fraud claiming it's an experiment. That's just fraud. So people who are a bit sharper, shall we say, have assessed this and gone, the man's a fraud. He's claiming it's science, calling it an experiment. It's merely an observation of a sun that we've already got pretty good evidence to suggest what he will claim proves antipodal positioning doesn't happen. But because it seems it doesn't happen, going down to assess whether or not it will or will not happen won't affirm his antipodal assumption. So where you strap it on the end and say, it'll prove whether or not we're on a ball, no, being on a ball needs to be proven before you assume that you're in a ball situation at the bottom of the ball assessing the sun. Because then, in reality, once you discount the assumption that you're antipodal, you're just looking at the sun from a given location that you will travel to flat. That was mapped flat.
If there isn't one, it means we live on a flat Earth.
Well, to be honest,
That's a false dichotomy. If there isn't one, we live on a flat Earth, it's just as much an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy that idiot flat earthers have also fallen victim to. We saw the same thing with Netflix. The fallacy works as follows. I'll give you the Netflix example first. If P, the Earth, is a rotating sphere, then Q, we will observe 15 degrees an hour drift in a gyro. By outcome, after the fact, we did see 15 degrees an hour drift in the gyro. Therefore, Earth is a rotating sphere. Now, that is a textbook affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy. Now, the P statement doesn't necessarily follow the Q statement, and you can change it for anything you like. Ergo, upon having this result when Netflix covered flat Earth, the if P Earth is a rotating sphere, then 15 degrees an hour deviation in gyro, was simply changed after the fact to if ether then 15 degrees an hour drift. 15 degrees an hour drift, therefore ether. Again, I could insert anything I like. If unicorns, then 15 degrees an hour drift. 15 degrees an hour drift, therefore unicorns. I can just put anything I like in. The statements don't have to follow each other. It's just if you can make the P statement seem like if the whether or not we'll see drift in gyros is what you're actually confirming. So what do they confirm? Whether or not their gyro's faulty. Gyros don't drift. That's their fundamental principle. If they are, it means they're moving about their axes. Their useful properties are that they don't drift. But Foucault asserts that they do, to assert that Earth turns underneath gyroscopes. And if, as is being claimed with Netflix affirming the consequent fallacy, changed after the fact to ether, Earth turns underneath the gyro, then Earth's turning underneath gyros and it would reduce flight times when travelling west. That doesn't happen. Not that it matters or that we need to defend this position because it's a fallacy to begin with. This fallacy is if Earth is a sphere, then when I travel antipodal, I'll observe a 24-hour sun. I observe a 24-hour sun, therefore I arrived after travelling on a ball and arriving antipodal. No. As Adam has recently been doing, you can insert anything you like to the P statement. If we have two suns, then we will observe a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. We observe 24-hour daylight/sun in Antarctica, therefore we have two suns. Total garbage and affirming the consequent fallacy. Now you can do this all day. What Will does to add an extra layer of fallacy to hide his original affirming the consequent is he stacks up his affirming the consequent. If I am antipodal, I'll observe 24-hour sun. I suggest that we'll see 24-hour sun, and we may or may not. And if we do, it will affirm the consequent that I've travelled antipodal. If he can stack that up in a false dichotomy where he says, but we'll put that for fairness against a globe projection. Oh, right, that makes it fair in false dichotomy where the globe projection doesn't even claim to represent a flat Earth. It's a globe projection called the azimuthal equidistant globe projection. Then we'll have a fair fight because I've stacked up a false dichotomy, so you hopefully don't notice that I'm affirming the consequent and assuming that I'm travelling antipodal. So that's how this actually works, in case this lady was actually interested in how the fallacy actually works. Because when she says what she says, if Earth's a globe on their behalf, she's essentially giving them half of what they need to affirm the consequent and beg the question of antipodal positioning. Hence I've laboured this point and gone into great detail. Hello, whoever it was that just joined. Okay, Brian. Brian, hello.
Hey, Nathan. Hey, everyone.
Will thinks is pretty much irrelevant. This is all about what reality is able to demonstrate to us.
In regards to what the sun does. Yeah, so we're going to see what the sun does in reality. Okay. Yeah, so at the end we'll conclude what the sun does. Not that we've travelled antipodal on a ball because it was stacked in false dichotomy against a globe projection.
And seeing as you can't even click on a flat earth channel these days without seeing the flat earther trying to discredit Will and the final experiment, it's clear that even flat earthers understand what this experiment is going to demonstrate to us.
What the sun will do, it's not an experiment. You don't know what an experiment is. Discrediting Will Duffy based on the fact that he is fraudulently claiming this is an experiment when it's an observation of what the sun will do is legitimate. As in, he is a fraud. He is claiming it's an experiment. He's leaning on the validity of empirical outcomes when applying science and experiment to an observation. Now, if you don't like the criticism with Will Duffy and his fraudulent use of the word experiment, you don't have to like it. It's a fact. What he's actually doing is affirming the consequent and assuming antipodal positioning. Those are also facts. You don't have to like them.
And you're all terrified. And we've got...
Very terrified. We've been pointing out that this is an experiment since Will Duffy contacted me proactively. He didn't reply and give me the hypothesis for his experiment. Lots of the White Knights came along in droves to give it on his behalf. I'm terrified, am I? I'm thinking no. I'm thinking there's quite a few people rallying around Will Duffy acting as White Knights in his defence. When he fails to offer a hypothesis for his experiment that he's claiming it is because he's a fraud. Now I'm calling him a fraud. Yeah, that's not me terrified, that's me calling out fraud. There's no experiment here. There is merely an observation. Yeah, you're in a category error.
Good reason.
I have to admit that I am quite perturbed by the whole thing.
Ooh, perturbed, eh? And quite rightly so, because it's definitely not a coincidence that all the flat earthers we've heard previously say that you cannot have a 24-hour sun in Antarctica.
Like, all of the flat earthers have said that, you liar. Okay, so you're going to find a clip of everybody on this panel saying that then, aren't you, Creaky? Lest you be a liar. No need, you are a liar. No, it's called a stereotyping fallacy. It allows me to call you a liar, lest you go and get every single flat earther saying that by quotations. You won't do that, therefore you're just a liar. Could I have been easier on Creaky and just addressed the stereotyping fallacy? No, he's a liar. He just lied about what I said, because I'm a flat earther and I don't say it's dependent. We say models are pseudoscience. Go ahead, Brian.
Not that I want to be defending the guy, but I think he said all the flat earthers that did say, as opposed to saying all the flat earthers. You might be...
Oh, because it's definitely not a coincidence that all the flat earthers we've heard previously say that you...
All the flat earthers we've heard previously say...
cannot have a 24-hour sun in Antarctica.
We cannot have it, so he said all the flat earthers previously say it. Am I missing something?
Yeah, I would have thought it more. All the flat earthers that we heard previously say. So that would mean all the ones that did say it. Because there was some that did say it. Like,
Fine, I'll leave it in ambiguity.
Antarctica, and now, well, they're just completely moving the goalposts and changing their stories.
I mean, there's going to be some people out there that change their stories that have claimed a globe projection is their model of the flat Earth. No, they might change their stories. We call them out too.
Hang on, you're missing it. I remember all the borders claiming the horizon was the geometric edge of a globe, right up until January the 1st, 2020. All of them.
After 1st of January 2020, we get comments like, nobody's claiming the horizon is Earth curve.
It's only in the maths.
Only exists in the math. Exactly.
Will Duffy has this idea that there's a flat Earth model, okay? And I would say where this comes from is...
Okay, Creaky's covered it. She's brought it to the attention of Creaky. He's even contacted Will Duffy about this personally. Yeah, I'm going to stand by it and I want everybody else to do the same. Yeah, I say Will Duffy's put a globe projection against a globe reification in false dichotomy. This lady says, what flat Earth model? I haven't signed off on any flat Earth model. Do you want to show it us? So far, we've got an azimuthal equidistant globe projection from a fraud claiming science when he hasn't got any hypothesis. I've asked him. Yeah, do you hear me, white knights that all came to his defence? What's that? I'm scared. Creaky. Now, we're going to need to see that flat Earth model. Yeah? And given the amount of stereotyping we've heard from every single video about this quasi-experiment fraud, we're stereotyped. So we're going to need to have every single flat earther sign off on it. Yeah? Otherwise, you're going to need to identify which model you're putting up in false dichotomy and who has claimed it's real. Now, so far, Will Duffy's already done this before his stereotyping of every single flat earther that's obviously raised objections. Creaky's covering the objections, and we're reiterating them. Yeah, it's been pointed out to him. He knows the score. So we're going to need to see this flat Earth model. And if, like Will Duffy says, it's Dave's model, because Dave claimed it, then Dave can take ownership and responsibility of his globe projection he said was a flat Earth model. No, Dave was wrong. You should have done a bit more homework and you'd have figured out that it's a globe projection, Will, before you stuck it in false dichotomy, so that you would get away with your affirming the consequent that assumes antipodal positioning. So Dave's model will fail. It's not a flat Earth model that failed. Dave's just a clown. Punting globe projections. Well, that's his problem, isn't it? But we're going to need it addressing, Will. We're not going to be satisfied with your globe projection against your globe reification, okay? So you're going to need to show us the flat Earth model that's being stacked up in false dichotomy. When you haven't got one, we're going to need to see the globe model that's being assessed. We're going to need to see that too. Yeah? We're going to need to see how it's measured. We're going to need to see how it came to fruition. We're going to need to see all of it. We're going to need to assess this data with a high degree of scrutiny. And this is just the start. This lady pointing out that, yeah, there isn't a flat Earth model in this. It's a globe projection. She's absolutely valid. Will's had it brought to his attention. Where's the flat Earth model? Where's the globe model? We're going to need to see him and scrutinise him. Go ahead, whoever that was.
I'm wondering if this Creaky guy is going to be honest about what he just did, because he, with his clever editing, he stopped it when she said she's perturbed. Right now, we're listening a little bit more. She's going on to say how this flat Earth model has been put on her, and that's why she's perturbed. But he tried to make it seem as though she's perturbed by him going down there and trying to prove one way or another, right? So I'm wondering if he's going to be honest and actually tell his audience that, no, the reason she's perturbed is because she has this flat Earth model that's been placed on her, and now this represents her. I'm wondering if he's actually going to do that.
Is
Eric Dubay and every other flat earther that's heard Eric Dubay talk about the AE map, which is the one that is most frequently used by flat earthers. But
So, Creaky's telling me that's my model because Eric Dubay gave it to me. Oh, really? Is that so? No. You know, we don't accept your stereotype fallacy. Nor do we accept the azimuthal equidistant globe projection, regardless of whether or not Eric Dubay has used it in an example he's got in a video. An azimuthal equidistant global projection is a global projection. So are you saying we must accept this globe projection, Creaky? How disingenuous. No, I don't accept your globe projection that you've got stacked in false dichotomy with a globe reification with antipodal positioning. I don't accept it. What are you going to do? Tell me that I must because Eric said it's real? No, I'm sure that you're misrepresenting Eric in the first instance, and while he may have an azimuthal equidistant presentation in his arsenal of videos, of which there are many, there may be azimuthal equidistant projections that flash by on my screen on my streams. Does that mean that I officially endorse the flat Earth model that is an azimuthal equidistant globe projection? No, we detail what it is and what it does. Same goes for the Gleasons. The moment you say, well, that's now your model. Well, no, it's a map. And that map was made using the latitude and longitude grid. Well, that latitude and longitude grid is measured flat. So I'll lean on the measurements of Earth that have then been turned into globe projections to then project back out flat. Now, with all that aside, those gerrymanderings of what we actually measure are irrelevant when we measure Earth flat. But Creaky says I must accept the globe projection as my model. Au contraire, you clown.
I do agree with you. No, we don't live on a model. We live on an oblate spheroid.
That's a model, you utter clown.
Nathan.
That's me. Go.
Yeah, maybe if Creaky Blinder hears this video, he might be able to ask Will Duffy why he was completely hand-waving away and unreasonably making a point of not looking at the final solution, which is pitch data. Why is Will Duffy completely avoiding the request for pitch data? What I put forth is far better than what he's doing in Antarctica, far safer, cheaper, everything. And it'll definitely prove either way, whether it's flat or globe.
Right, well, with that in mind, go and let Creaky know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment. Hopefully won't get immediately removed because you're aggravating the videographer. The idea being that were Creaky to make a response to us pointing out his disingenuous stereotyping fallacy and insistence that flat earthers accept a globe projection as their model, maybe he'll put a link to my video. That would be the general idea. So please leave him a polite comment. Maybe you like his material. Maybe you'll want to subscribe to Creaky. Who knows? In either event, we're helping him in the algorithmic love where we definitely don't receive any from YouTube. Hopefully he'd put a link to my video if he wants to make a response. Please let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me.
A lot of people, including myself, who, you know, we all have our own thoughts and ideas on what this realm is, what this what this place is, what it looks like, how it's sorted out, you know, how it works.
And that is how we know that each and every one of you is completely wrong about everything you say.
So when I point out the elevation angle measurement for the latitude system that's wrapped around the globe, see, the problem is, Creaky, that puts you in a rock and a hard place scenario, because you either deny, because of your base assertion that you just made, that everything I say is wrong. Okay? So the elevation angle measurements that give us the latitude grid that is fundamental to your globe and measured flat, you would deny. So you would deny a base premise that the globe requires. So you have no assertion of a globe if you deny it. Or, alternatively, this would be the hard place compared to the rock, you can affirm that we measure elevation angles to Polaris to achieve them on a flat Earth, in which case it's game over, we're measuring Earth flat. Now, you can deny that we're measuring Earth flat for those elevation angles to give us the latitude grid, but then you'll be denying the base premise of those lines wrapped around your globe that you want to claim. So it's either affirm that we will be measuring Earth flat for this principle the globe has as a foundation, or deny the foundations of your globe reification. Those are your two choices. So maybe as a single question to Creaky, do you deny elevation angle measurements for the latitude grid on your globe? Because if you do, you don't have a globe claim to make, because obviously they're part of your globe. If you don't, you accept Earth is measured flat, because that's precisely how we measure them. Maybe you'd like to answer me that, bearing in mind everything I say is completely lies and incorrect. Right, Creaky?
Because there was even the remotest of possibilities that the Earth was flat, you would
measure it flat with elevation angles to Polaris to wrap around your globe for you to believe in and reify after telling us that you don't believe in models to assert that you're on a geoid? These people are so dumb.
all be arguing an identical model.
Some people start to take that on as fact, okay? And so you end up hearing things like there's an ice wall and a dome and a disk and all of this stuff, okay? And then
I like this lady. She's echoing many of the sentiments that we talk about. Yeah, you come to the subject and next thing you know, you're being told there's an ice wall around you and you must accept it. Yeah, I completely agree with you. The more this person talks, the more I like what she's saying.
you couple that with something like Dave Weiss's app, right? That flat earth app that, you know, he made or had made.
Oh, this could go either way.
That shows you the seasons and the celestial bodies and how they move around and stuff.
Yeah, that's the reason she's identified Dave Weiss's app is because that's what's being claimed as the model universally by identification of Will Duffy when he specifically identified Dave Weiss and that model. So what we're actually doing in false dichotomy is assessing Dave. That's why he's just been identified by name.
Stuff like that. And so then people like Will Duffy get this idea that this is our flat earth model.
Ah, but if we'd all do it...
So yeah, I completely agree with it. Anybody at all disagree with what she just said?
Let's talk.
No, she's right on point.
Anybody disagree? Everybody agrees with you.
doing such a terrible job of understanding your flat earth model.
Sorry, yes, we covered this earlier, didn't we, Creaky? When you say your flat earth model, you mean the azimuthal equidistant globe projection that you're insisting that we reify alongside a antipodal globe reification in false dichotomy. No, you see, we identify the faults and flaws in logic, otherwise known as fallacies, Creaky. You perceive this as us being terrified. You're just dumb.
Then why don't you all group together, decide on which model it is you're arguing for, and
why don't you all behave like sheep and group together so you can all agree on the same model like we do? Is that what you do, right? You all agreed on the same model, so we all must be conformist cucks like you? No, definitely not, Creaky. I mean, you're free to conform with everybody around you based on consensus opinion. You're free to do that, you complete cuck.
we can talk about it. But you don't do that. You've all got your own version of what the flat earth would look like, and
And that's a problem because...
The only thing that they all have in common is that they're all completely ridiculous. Oh,
Really? So when I point out that elevation angles to Polaris are measured on a flat plane and then wrapped around a globe, you would be on the side of the argument that the flat Earth measurements are ridiculous. You'd deny them. All right, what are you going to wrap around your globe then? You're not going to wrap these flat Earth measurements around your globe because that's the only way to measure them. So if it's ridiculous, you relinquish your globe then, because those flat Earth measurements are fundamental. Oh, sorry, I need to be panicking, or what was the word he said? Terrified? I absolutely love it. The only person who needs to be in any way worried is Dave Weiss, who has non-stop punted this globe projection with a little sun and a little moon above it. He's been out on the circuit talking this crap on everyone's behalf, saying he represents everybody. Now his chickens have come home to roost. That's what's actually happening here. And everybody around, stereotype fallacy, I can do it too, is saying that we don't agree. We don't sign off on this model. Yeah? Maybe Dave's crowd does. Go on.
Look at how you guys promoting the group think, right? Oh, you guys dare to have your own thoughts and ideas about what the Earth is. Are you serious? No, we're supposed to be in a cult like you, believing I'm on the outside of a ball.
That's exactly what he's saying. We should all band together and agree. Should we? All right, that would progress humanity.
and wrong, obviously.
And that's just not correct. There is no flat Earth model. I didn't agree to any flat Earth model.
I'm sorry for stopping it. You might want to pull a J. But he said the only thing they all have in common is that they're all ridiculous. I would say the one thing they have in common is they're all flat. Wouldn't that be more correct?
Completely ridiculous. And wrong, obviously.
And that's just not correct. There is no flat Earth model. I didn't agree to any flat Earth model. I don't know how we could have a flat Earth model when none of this has been fully explored.
I don't know about your justification for it, but given that there's a entire Western world paradigm that you're on a globe, why would there be an easy to access and identify as a flat Earth quote-unquote model? Yeah? Obviously, what you're going to end up with is multiple versions of the same globe projection, projected in multiple different ways onto flat maps so they can function with circles of equal elevation. That's what you actually end up with. Flat maps dealing with the flat world, but in reality, they've all been distorted through globe projection. So there isn't one. She's correct. Now, if anybody's to challenge her, then they need to show it. Show us the flat Earth map. Now, in the case of Dave Weiss's, we know what it is. It's a globe projection. So we need to see it, identify it as a legit flat Earth model. Otherwise, you need to drop your false dichotomy. The problem is for Will Duffy is when he does, because there isn't one, she's correct, suddenly all eyes are on, well, how are you justifying begging the question of being antipodal? So if I go to the bottom of a globe, I'll see a 24-hour sun is the only thing he's left with. But he likes to lean on the, look, it's us versus them, their model versus our model. And well, no, it's not. What Will's done is put a globe projection against a globe reification in false dichotomy. That's what he's actually done.
To make the determination about anything in our reality, right?
Wrong. Now, I'll agree with you about the flat Earth. Yeah, there is no working model of the flat Earth, but that...
Did you hear that, Will? You need to scrub that list immediately. Even your own side have admitted that you cannot stack a non-model in false dichotomy. Right? That's a fact. Your own side's confirmed it. This man's in direct contact with you. He's in cahoots to the level that anybody that you could associate with you would be reasonably associated. He's got a personal line to you. Now, this man says there isn't one. Will Duffy says there is. He's got it stacked up in false dichotomy, Creaky. What an outrage. Even Will's own side know how fraudulent he is. Don't you, Creaky? Yeah, you know there's not a flat Earth model. But a minute ago you were telling us we must accept a globe projection. And we must conform, like the Borg. Right? So, we're all clear now, Creaky. We won't accept your globe projection, known as the azimuthal equidistant globe projection. And you know there isn't one. That would be flat Earth model. for Will's false dichotomy. These are big problems for you. I couldn't give a toss. Yeah, I know that Earth's measured flat, so none of this is consequential to anybody here.
That's mainly because...
Go ahead.
Excuse me, Nathan. I think it needs to be pointed out that Creaky, Blinder, and Will Duffy are pre-assuming that there is a globe model.
No, I did cover that earlier. I said I want to see the globe model as well. And I want to see where its measurements have originated. So if we're going to use a globe model, I want to know exactly how Earth was measured to get to it. Do you want to know why, ladies and gentlemen? Because they'll be using flat Earth measurements to get to the globe reification, as I'm labelling it. The idea that they're antipodal will have its genesis in flat Earth measurements. So when we assess the globe model, we'll be pointing that out. This has been a good fun show today. I'm enjoying it. Please share the show if you haven't done so already. Got 90 people odd watching. Smash that share button.
Because the Earth isn't flat. But as far as the globe model, and I don't like calling it a model because it isn't a model, it's...
Oh, wow, I can't believe we've got both concessions back to back. So, Duffy, yeah? You haven't got a globe model and you haven't got a flat Earth model. What precisely are you stacking up in false dichotomy? Globe projection versus globe reification. Okie dokie, that sounds very biased in favour of the globe. That you haven't shown us a model for. And Creaky says you haven't got. Your own side says you haven't got what you're stacking in false dichotomy and calling an experiment, Will. Is it all crumbling at the seams, Will? Certainly seems so. Your own side's doing it, they're too dumb to know it.
It's basically just reality. We don't need to argue about things like that.
There's no need to argue anymore.
Because everybody agrees with what science is able to demonstrate to us.
Cause and effect based on observation of natural phenomena, formulation of a hypothesis, that's a scientific prediction, and an actualization of the cause and effect reasoning contained in the scientific prediction. That's what science has to offer. Empirical outcomes based on experiment, after observing phenomena and supposing a cause, varying it and seeing if it causes it or not. That's science. You wouldn't know if it slapped you in the face with a wet fish.
Plus, there's people in the ISS, right?
Go on.
Nathan. He also said, everyone agrees, right? Well, no, they don't agree. They don't agree with what science actually shows us, these people. And the proof of that is they try and call things science that aren't science. And if we want to take it the other way, everyone agrees that science shows us a globe. No, I don't agree.
No, Jaron doesn't agree either. He's apparently going along with this. After calling me a scammer for saying science proves things, now he's telling an entire community of people that this is really important to go and do this experiment. I mean, when people call him a shill currently, I don't even bother to try and defend him. Like, well, if you want to believe he's a shill, I don't know that's the case. I haven't got any validity or proof. But his behaviour in terms of science can't prove anything. Nathan's a scammer. 6 months later. Let's go and do an experiment. Do you not realise how important this is, flat earthers? Yeah. Lots of people have noticed too, which I quite appreciate. Lots of people coming back saying, yeah, actually, we were deceived by Jaron. Welcome back, all those people, by the way. Haven't mentioned them in a while. Yeah, people coming back after being misled by Jaron that science wouldn't prove. And the moment he started talking about this experiment, they all started deserting him in droves and telling me they did do it. Okay, well, thank you for letting me know. I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's out of guilt because you deserted me at the behest of Jaron. I don't know. But either way, I'm very grateful to have you all come back. It's nice to see the numbers going in the right direction at a greater rate than they typically do.
Now, looking down on us, seeing that we live on a globe, and yet flat earthers are still doubling down when it comes to the final experiment.
It's because it's not an experiment. Doubling down on what? An observation yet to be confirmed.
Trying to deal it, but no, that was not my model. I may be a flat earther, but I never said I had a flat earth model.
Yeah, that's pretty much what she said. Do you think mimicry will change her point? Is this, what, argument by imitation? Sorry, that's not really an argument, that's just repeating what she's put to you. Yeah, she says it's not her model, and she doesn't accept it. Oh, well, it's not my model. I don't accept it. What a fantastic rebuttal.
But you all did. And
Did we? Right, let's see the survey that says every single flat earther at one stage accepted the azimuthal equidistant projection, because the first thing I did was put it to the test. We tracked the sun live immediately. That was one of the first things I did. Let's have a look at what the sun's doing then. Let's compare it with time and date and the azimuthal equidistant globe projection. And let's see where it fails. From that moment to this, having not ever said, yeah, this has definitely got my stamp of approval, first thing we did was assess it. Practically assess it. But apparently I've always accepted it, says this liar. No, you liar.
now that the final experiment is
It's
going
not an experiment. It's fraud. You're just getting behind a fraudster who's lying to you. In the same way you've been lied and told that you're on a globe.
to prove that that model...
You know, science proves things because it has an inbuilt empiricism in the hypothesis construction. If A, then B. B is the phenomena you're studying. A is your presumed cause. Alongside it, you have a null, which is a zero difference outcome. If A, presumed cause of the effect, then not B. So you vary A and B doesn't happen. Now, both of them have the capability of being validated upon experimentation. That's how science proves things. That's why it's empirical and has advanced humanity. That is why Will calls this an experiment, so he can steal valor as a fraudster. It's not an experiment. It doesn't have a hypothesis. Will contacted me proactively, and I asked him for it. He hasn't got one. That's why I asked. I already knew the answer. It's just fraud. It's not an experiment.
model cannot work. You're all denying it's your model.
Right, what can't work? Sorry, all you're going to be observing is what the sun does. What will or will not work is stacked in false dichotomy currently with a globe reification and a globe projection.
So the idea is that, you know, people say, well, the sun and the moon move around above us in a circle like this, and then they move out a little further and a little further until eventually the sun makes its widest circumference, if you will.
She started this by saying they say, excluding herself in this description, by the way.
Around the outer edge of this disc-looking flat Earth.
So what exactly are you describing then if you don't have a flat Earth model?
So he's misrepresented it. I knew it. You see, Creaky, dumb people are quite predictable. And what you did was misrepresent what she's now describing as her model. No, she very specifically started it by saying they say. That was to detach herself from what she described others describing. But now you're going to misrepresent that. Like, well, what model are you denying if this is your description? It weren't. But you notice how I preemptively noticed enough to say, maybe this Dumbo will misrepresent this by now, claiming that she said this is her model. No, she didn't, Creaky, did she? You Dumbo. That's why you're predictable. Yeah, because you're not very bright in your misrepresentations. It's pathetic. Even when you lie and deceive your audience about what the person you've just played has said, yeah, you still don't have the intellect to make it subtle, do you? Just too dumb.
Because it certainly sounded like you were describing something.
Yes, something that they say it does. Did you miss that bit? You put it in your edit, you Dumbo.
And that something is really all the proof flat earthers should need.
It's not her. So back to lumping her in with the stereotyping fallacy we must accept when she's explicitly said they say. What a weasel. What a predictable weasel. You Dumbo. You have no idea how stupid you are, do you?
To understand that the sun is not going to stay up for 24 hours in Antarctica on the flat earth model.
That she's explicitly said she doesn't adhere to. So now it's back to, well, I can now reposition this with you describing what they say that you object to as being the false dichotomy I want this to be because I force every flat earther to accept this globe projection. You must. Eric Dubay said it. Well, these are your standards, are they? Wow. Wow.
Which would be where the ice wall is out around that outer edge, and they call it Antarctica.
I bet after this statement, she gets an edit to him affirming that that's her position now. We'll see if I'm right.
And so if there's no 24-hour sun, then it means we live on a flat Earth. And
A quick shout out to Phoenix Rising. Says you should the goth kids. Maybe he means use. You should use the goth kids from South Park as a thumbnail. Conformist sheep. Yeah, I think it was. You should use the goth kids from South Park as a thumbnail. Conformist sheep. Yeah, thank you very much for the super chat, Phoenix Rising 86.
it's just nonsense, okay? The celestial bodies do not dictate what we're standing on.
So we're absolutely clear. She started the statement and ended the statement by making it explicitly clear that she doesn't adhere to it and it's nonsense. She also prefaced it by saying they would say that, with that description being the thing that they would say. Will he now, reposition his misrepresentation? Will he acknowledge it, even though he's included it in his edit? I doubt it, because it's probably only there to misrepresent.
Well, not directly, no, but think of the moon, for example. It would be a...
So she's just explicitly said that this isn't hers and she doesn't agree with it. But now you're going to launch into examples of how it wouldn't work when she doesn't agree with it and says it isn't hers and won't have it being represented as her model, in quotes. All right, well, back onto the false dichotomy track that you need this to be, I guess.
Pretty bad day for Earth if the moon was to suddenly disappear.
What is this non sequitur? Go ahead, Chocolate.
What was it that he said not directly known to? Could you rewind a little bit?
What we're standing on.
Well, not directly, no, but think of the moon, for example. It would...
A complete nonsensical non sequitur. I don't know what else to say, Chocolate.
So wait a minute. So she says that the celestial bodies do not dictate what you're standing on, and his response is not directly no. Okay, so we're in agreement that this does not prove whether we're on a flat plane or a globe. Okay, Creaky.
Yeah, what he's telling me is they too, even the dumb ones, recognise the flaws in this methodology. Okay, so the celestial objects aren't representing the ground. If you're listening and you go, well, yeah, duh. Yeah, the lights in the sky aren't the ground. Yeah, he would admit to that. But they're going and looking at what a light in the sky does. Because I've assumed the ground is antipodal when I took the trip. Yeah, he understands the flaws in this. Even if it's only at a level that he can't verbalise in the forefront of his mind. He recognises it. His recognition of it is pouring out of him in response to this lady.
It would be a pretty bad day for Earth if the moon was to suddenly disappear, because it's the moon's gravitational pull on Earth that causes tides.
Like gravitational pull, as in the force of gravity pulling tides, not for 109 years. Well, that's one way to let the audience know that you haven't been educated in gravity beyond a high school level. There hasn't been a force to pull anything in 109 years. Gravity is the bent geodesic in space-time invented by Einstein in a quasi-pseudo-Riemannian four-space time geometry. The bent time is gravity. According to Einstein, the uneven distribution of mass causes the bending and warping of space and time. That's got sod all to do with forces pulling tides, and hasn't done for 109 years, Creaky. Really? You haven't been keeping up with your gravity credits, mate. You haven't got a clue, have you?
It's worse than that. A few minutes ago, he brought up the flat Earth model again. The very thing he admitted to earlier doesn't exist. And he brought up the moon. Well, it's funny that you brought that up, because I have observations of the full moon in the daytime. Now, that's a celestial observation that is impossible. It's just as impossible as no 24-hour sun in Antarctica. Just as impossible as that. Maybe more impossible within your paradigm. It cannot happen. Yet I have 2 videos of the full moon in the daytime, both within about 6 months apart. Yet nobody wants to address them. Even Nathan doesn't want to address them.
I knew that was coming. I left it off pause to wait for and him playing when I thought I was finished. Is him not acknowledging.
I brought this up a couple of times, and you just go, yeah, whatever. Because you're not seeing what I'm saying. You're not seeing the importance of it. You're not seeing how we can actually use that against them and show them an actual observation of the celestials that does debunk that paradigm that we have two of using the celestials. So what's better? Oh no, the sun is better than the moon. No, they can't say that. Like, I don't know. I've tried to bring this up a few times, but it's just not. Nobody's paying attention to it.
Well, pick your battles. I mean, there's some things that people like. I mean, you're saying I don't like it. I can't remember. So if you're saying I've fobbed you off and gone, yeah, whatever, fine, I'll accept that. That does sound like me. But my point is that
it's exactly.
Hold on, I'm nearly finished. When things do come to the forefront, their importance reveals itself regardless. Now, don't get me wrong, there is obviously a certain degree of effort that you, in this instance, have to put in, like with the pitch data. But this is its moment, if you will. I'm not reifying pitch data, I'm just saying the argument. This is the moment for that argument. It slots in nicely with what they're doing. So it's come to the forefront with good reason. Now, up until it was critically important to understand it, perhaps I didn't. I'm not going to feign that I've got a great intellect in terms of comprehension when it comes to these new arguments. Every time they've been laid out to me once or twice, suddenly I know them. Not necessarily. More likely than not, I won't. But when they're critically important to understand, I do. Now, yes, I've heard you mention this. Do I understand it? No, I'll just admit straight off the cuff, I don't. So therefore, I don't understand the importance. You're right.
Okay, give me a second. They're going to Antarctica. I don't know what Antarctica is, but they're going to this place they're calling Antarctica. And they're going to see if there's a 24-hour sun in the southern summer in Antarctica. And if there is, they're saying that debunks flat Earth, which it doesn't. And if there isn't, that will debunk the globe. I already have two celestial observations of the full moon in the daytime. And if you understand the moon phases within their paradigm, that is completely impossible. So there already exists a celestial observation which determined whether the globe paradigm was real or not. It doesn't prove flat Earth, but it determines whether the globe paradigm is real and correct or not. And it's not.
Shout out to... Sorry, go ahead.
The point is, we already have those observations of a different celestial body that they've chosen to completely ignore. And you want to talk and call out super chats, which is fine, but you're completely missing the point.
I knew it was coming again, I knew it. I've literally given you airwaves to go through it, and you're still moaning.
Yeah, well, you're making coffee and everything while I'm doing that.
No. Oh my God, you're martyr. You want to make stuff up now? I love it.
It's totally obvious. Look, I shut up about it. Off you go.
Oh, wow. Tis hot here. I'll chalk it up to that. Shout out to Capono5150 says, how long do you think a 4090 will last me? Ages. A 4090 will bottleneck the very fastest CPUs that are out there currently, even at 4K. So if I had a 4090, I'd probably look to upgrade the CPU at least once before I upgraded that. So I would estimate that if you pushed it, you could probably get 8 years out of that GPU. It's like double the power of what I've got in this machine, a 4070. It's like 4 SKUs up, and it's double the power. So it's more capable than anything you can partner with it currently. Anyway, it'll last you ever. I don't know why you've super chatted about a 4090. Obviously a gamer.
That celestial bodies have no impact on Earth is just plain old ignorant. And while we're talking about celestial bodies, why is it then that we only see spherical objects when we look out into the universe? Because
you don't. You only see spherical objects when you look out into the universe. Do you not know how you observe the sky? Do you think you've got binocular vision to these objects in the sky? You're not observing three-dimensionality, you're inferring it from telescopes. Is this guy a clown? He literally doesn't know what he's talking about, does he? No, you haven't got binocular vision to the sky, you clown. Sorry, just let me berate him. You haven't got binocular vision to the sky, you utter clown. Go on, Brian.
Hi, Nathan. Yeah, he doesn't know. He's claims about gravity or 109 years out of date. He thinks that telescopes give you binocular vision. Like, what the guy is he's making videos for a pat on the back from a load of people who don't need facts. They just need someone to make a video like he makes it. Do you know what I mean? These people don't need to, they don't care about, they don't need to hear about Einstein being the current gravity, Einstein's general relativity being the current gravity within their paradigm. They just need someone like Creaky Blinder to say something gravity and force of gravity and say all the lights in the sky are spheres, all this rubbish, and that's good enough for them. And they'll all give him a pat in the back, and he'll think he did something.
Yeah, he's the guy that tucks in the comfort blanket. You know, when you have some sort of doubt about your model, you can go to this guy. Be like, oh, I do live on a globe. Thank you, Creaky. Oh, I appreciate that. Nobody's going to this guy for any actual arguments. Come on.
The Earth to be flat, then every other celestial object would need to be flat as well.
Why? I mean, there you've got a two-dimensional view of it. What are you talking about?
Yeah, is there any evidence that they're not?
Yeah, do you want to show that they are 3D? Go ahead, feel free. And every inference that you give me on a two-dimensional representation that can only be two-dimensional, I'll point it out to you and just laugh at you.
Because that's just the way gravity works.
The way that gravity works? What's it got to do with gravity? What's he talking about?
Gravitation and accretion.
Is that what he's talking about?
Yeah, which is a force of gravity, which came before. Well, it's based off of the idea that everything becomes a sphere because it's all point to a center point, or the debris or whatever.
I got that, but because of what? I mean, I get the concept. I described it with Thea, but I'm saying because what? Why? Just a baseless assertion that it is what it is. Okay, prove it.
Yeah, but that's how he's making them three-dimensional. So it's like he's begging the question that they're three-dimensional, and his proof of it is another begging the question fallacy.
Yeah, exactly. Well done. Well summarized.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there who think that this is going to prove something. In fact, we now...
Sorry to interrupt you. Never a straight answer says, ain't nothing like the real thing, baby. I don't know how the song goes. He's put music around it to remind me that it's a song. Ain't nothing like the real thing, baby. Anybody know how the melody goes? Clearly not. Thank you for the super chat, though. Really appreciate the support.
Now have people saying...
Say again?
Come and see the real thing. What's his name? The Australian? What's his... I can't remember the guy's name now.
The real thing, baby.
There you go.
Oh,
exactly, chocolate.
That they are going to...
It's been a bit of a musical song. We've had No Need to... Was it No Need to Argue? And Ain't Nothing But the Real Thing. Wonderful.
To jump ship. They're going to shut their channels down and change sides depending on what they see down there.
Now, I don't know whether that's true or false, because I've certainly not heard a single flat earther say that if the final experiment demonstrates to them that the sun does stay in the sky for 24 hours a day, that they will switch from being a flat earther to a globe earther.
Wouldn't that present you with a bit of a problem if Will Duffy saying that this is the arbiter of whether or not we'll accept one or the other? I haven't heard a single flat earther say that they'll accept this. Will, you've got huge problems. Oh my God, Creaky, you're undoing everything this man's doing. This is brilliant. What a clown. Well, if nobody's accepting it, why is he doing it? Brian, given that nobody on our side of this is accepting of this, maybe you could offer Will some alternative that we might be accepting of. Maybe something to do with pitch data. You feel free to drop that in at this very moment.
Yeah, if Will wants to forget about this final experiment nonsense in Antarctica he's about to try and perform, and move over to the final solution. That's what I'm calling it, which is the acquisition of pitch data from several large airlines, which will tell us whether their commercial aircraft are flying over a globe, over a flat plane. It's totally objective. Nobody needs to get hurt. Nobody can fall off an ice wall. No one has to leave home. It's probably cheaper all around. So yeah, that is what you should be doing, because no one's going to accept the no flat earther that I know of is accepting that if there's a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, except for maybe Jaron, because he's not a flat earther, is going to prove that the earth is not flat.
Yeah.
Big data will do. That'll prove, let's prove whether the earth is a globe or flat.
What one of my commenters left us on one of the members' videos, I think it's been published now, was what we need is a clip of Jaron saying that Nathan's a scammer because science doesn't prove things, back to back with him saying we need to take this seriously.
Funny part is he says
oh, sorry,
that,
go ahead, Chocolate.
Funny part is he says that he hasn't heard any flat earthers say they're going to change their quote model if this doesn't work, and we know for a fact that there's not going to be any globers that are going to change their side if they don't get this 24-hour sun in Antarctica. So literally, Will's doing this for nothing because nobody's changing anything.
I don't know how many people are calling for globers to relinquish their model if it fails. It's like, I couldn't give a toss. If it fails, right, that is to say that the contrapositive of this false dichotomy when affirming the consequent with an antipodal assumption, let's say it fails. Well, Brian pointed this out a couple of days ago. The only thing that could or would be relinquished in that circumstance is something that requires that to be the case. Now, that's a reification of a globe with antipodal positioning. Now, I've said it all in that statement. It's a reification of a globe in the model that has antipodal positioning derived from flat Earth measurements. That's why we're asking to see this globe that you'll be using so we can assess where the measurements came from. But that's it. Once you've done that, if you're going to assume beyond the affirming the consequent and beyond the begging the question fallacy and beyond the antipodal assumption that you are on the bottom of the sphere, then you absolutely must see this with all those assumptions in tow. Now, if you don't, then you're not on your reification. Now, that doesn't fuss me. It's a reification. Who cares? But you've reified it. You think you are standing on it. So really, the question should be, how many globers will give up their globe model if this fails? Because that's the actual consequences based on a string of fallacies, including reification and an antipodal assumption. So that's the question. Which of you Muppets are going to give up your reification of a globe if this fails? Me, I don't give a toss.
None of them. Well, as a matter of fact, I think if they don't get this demonstration or this observation, I think they'll double down and say, "Whoa, this never was supposed to prove anything anyway." We know it. We know it. We've been in this long enough. We know how these guys act. There might be one or two stragglers that might say, "Oh, this might be a little bit of a problem," but I don't think that the masses. The Globers and masses, they're not gonna. This is gonna be a nothing burger.
There's going to be some. You go.
Sorry, Nathan.
You go first.
Yeah. This is my determination on it. Now, I've already stated that the whole thing is a massive hand wave of the past 10 years of them getting destroyed by us. But it's more than that. I view it as Will Duffy expects to see a 24-hour sun, and he knows that if he does see one, right, that will make all of us say, no, we don't, because this is why they're positioning it in such a way to say that all the flat earthers said that if there is a 24-hour sun, then it must be a globe. No flat earther that I remember, except for maybe David Weiss or Jaron or something. Maybe Eric DeBay, but they're the kind of, you don't know who they are. They're these big flat earthers, big name flat earthers, who aren't flat earthers, some of them. But long story short is that what it is a character assassination, because they want to be able to call all of us lawyers, right, and say, oh, we saw a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, and the flat earthers don't agree that debunks flat earth, which proves that they're all liars, right? Whereas if they don't see one, I predict what they're going to do is say, oh, we're going to go back next year and try again.
Yeah,
that's what I predict they're going to say.
Probably. Anyway, I'm just going to do a quick shout out. Hold on. I just need to shout out so far. He says, I know we don't see the moon spinning around to see the other side of it, but what can we say for the sun? Do we see the other side of the sun? Okay, well, in the most literal terms, no for both, but you can infer things. So, for instance, you can track sunspots across the sun and infer that you're seeing something spherical. Same goes for the moon. You can see libration and infer that as a result of the libration, it can be described to be spherical. That doesn't change the view you have of these things. Yeah? Other things that they imply are shadows. Now, I've observed this, and I have no explanation. I don't need one. They say they're shadows. They say they're craters. They say it's spherical. They say they've landed on it. Now, I don't have a claim in regards to what the sun is, but I do know how we view it. So if you're going to categorically say it's three-dimensional, then you're going to need to give me a binocular view, of that entity. Whatever you suggest it is irrelevant. But if the claim is 3D, then you need to show it in 3 dimensions. We don't get that view. It is just that simple. The inferences I'm not that interested in. I've accepted libration as an inference of moon sphericity because I've looked at it and seen it do it. But I can't make a clear cut, yes, that means it is, based on that inference. It is just that, an inference, in every single instance.
Well, whatever it is, that it does rotate on its face. So I don't know what the hell it's doing up there, but the face of that thing, whatever it is, definitely rotates.
We don't know what it is, or either of them. We don't know what any of the lights in the sky. So to start being so presumptuous as to say, well, I know what it's doing because I can extrapolate this inference based on my observation of this thing I don't know. You're like, okay, am I pushed to agree? Now, the orbital motion assumption comes from flat Earth measurements. So, no. We're definitely not going to put any of these items in orbit around us or us around them. That's impossible based on how they've come to that inference mathematically. You take the flat Earth measurements of the angle positions to these lights in the sky, and then wrap it round a ball and put it in orbital motion with Kepler and Huygens. No, you need a flat Earth to measure to take the first step in this mathematical merry-go-round. We are not going to take as read that an inference based on flat Earth measurements puts us on a sphere in orbital motion. We're not. The genesis is also flat Earth measurements. So, but for the fact that we measure Earth flat, we could be in orbital motion. And if we ignore the fact we measure Earth flat, we can reify orbital motion and then tally it with the inferences of sphericity we take from our two-dimensional view of the sky. But with all those things in tow, I'm not going to say anything about them. I don't know. And neither do any of the clowns that come up with just so stories based on flat Earth measurements. Let's play on.
As far as I can tell, the only one who's approaching this whole thing honestly is Jeronism, and I think he deserves our support.
Bravo, Jaron. Bravo. You go down there and do this science. What's that? Hold on. Scammer, you say? Science won't prove anything, you say? Oh, he's definitely being applauded by the Globers, the very dishonest Globers that have had at least half a dozen examples of dishonesty. They're praising Jaron. How wonderful.
Isn't that amazing?
Amazing. Well, it seems like, you know, Jaron's the second best representative after Dave with his azimuthal equidistant globe projection that they're going to be debunking in false dichotomy against their globe reification. But Jaron says it's very important. He also says science doesn't prove things, and I'm a scammer for saying it does. But for the fact that we're pointing out this isn't science, Jaron would have a really good point, wouldn't he? And all the Globers agree with him. Oh, well, that's encouraging.
Yeah, because they're saying exactly what they want us to say. That if they go down and get this demonstration, that it will be detrimental for the flat Earth model. Darren has said that. Heard him. So he's right on point with them.
Needs to get on the blur to Dave. Dave, do you remember all these people saying we don't live on a model and you ignoring them? It seems like that's a bit of a problem for you. Oh no, like with everything that these clowns end up doing, we get stereotyped with them, right? Jaron does another experiment on Netflix. It fails miserably, and it's interesting. And we're all tarred with the brush of failure that an experiment was performed by Jaron. No, he's just a scammer, according to his own words, when he goes out and performs these pseudo-science claim to be experiments that fail miserably and then are used to affirm the consequence. Yeah, that's all that's going on here. We've seen it all before. Yeah, Jaron's already failed everybody miserably whilst claiming to be doing experiments. Fool me once.
Because
well
currently
done, Jaron.
he
You
is
now
the
have
only flat
Globers praising you. Well done.
earther who seems to be able to see the final experiment for what it is.
What, a scam? Oh no, he's saying it's really important, isn't he? My bad. It's only when I say experiment that it's a scam. When the Globers say it, he's all for it and they get behind him. Yeah, this is nuts.
Andy doesn't seem to be afraid of it. He's happy to be proven wrong.
And are you? I mean, who cares what Sharon as one man says, but are you happy to be proven wrong? We haven't seemed to establish that. Maybe when you projected the fear you say we have, your lack of confirmation that you'll walk away from your globe reification if your claimed observation in false dichotomy and affirming the consequent fails, you haven't affirmed that. You haven't said anything. You haven't stereotyped your own side. You haven't even mentioned them in this regard, have you? Maybe that's the telling projection of that fear you mentioned. I'm pretty sure it is.
As am I. If there is no 24-hour sun in Antarctica in December, I will do exactly the same thing that MC Toon has promised, and I will delete every video of me debunking the flat Earth off my channel.
Sorry, is that phrased in such a way that you wouldn't have to get rid of them because you haven't debunked Jack? Maybe it's tricky wording. Well, I'm not getting rid of any of my videos because I didn't debunk anything.
And what I have to say to that is, yeah, okay, please do that, and then leave the discussion entirely. Because...
Oh, I don't encourage you to do that, Creaky. More power to you, man. Why would you want to do that? They're a revenue stream for you and your family. So why would you do that? What, it's just like a little book burning? Why? You're documented in history as standing by all the stuff you've stood by, and you're what, willing to relinquish the embarrassing facts that you were in opposition to something that failed. You just, well, that seems like very cowardly, like you're burning the books that you wrote. That's not really an incentive to anybody. I don't care if you're on YouTube. I'm not asking you to leave. I don't want you to delete anything. Nah, man, keep them up. If in 10 years' time the entire Western world realises that you're a bullshitter and a liar, and how you've been bullshitting a lie, they'll have a reference for it, won't they, Creaky? Oh, unless you delete it all like a complete coward.
See, but again, the projection. He's trying to make it seem as though this has to be so detrimental to every flat earther. Yet here he is talking about him and MC Toon and probably other Globers are probably going to delete their channel. This is how detrimental getting this evidence is to you guys. That's crazy, and that's also why it's so important for us to accept the flat Earth model, right? So that we could stand in false dichotomy. Right. It's insane. This is batshit crazy.
Yeah, it's pathetic. I'll bet my channel. Okay, I couldn't give a crap. Delete it, don't delete it, I don't care. But in regards to your accountability, were people to recognise what a Billy bullshitter you've been over the course of this discussion about whether or not Earth is flat, you know, maybe in the next 2 years, people will start to recognise more and more how the globe Earth comes from those flat Earth measurements that you've claimed to have quote-unquote debunked. Well, they'll realise what a massive bullshitter you were. So what you're saying is you'll get rid of every single record of your bullshit if you're proven wrong. Why? No, let's hold up in celebration how wrong you were the whole time that you were ridiculing us with the algorithmic favoritism offered to you by YouTube.
we don't need people here who can't separate objective reality from fiction.
Yeah, but what you just said means that you don't want any flat earthers involved in the discussion about the flat earth, because they are the only ones who can't fathom objective reality.
Baseless assertion and ad hominem fallacy.
We don't need people trying to turn speculation into fact without proving it in some way.
Well, that's not true, is it? Because the entire flat earth belief system is built on spec.
So now we've got it back to, she's criticising the model that's being held up in false dichotomy. He's now officially repositioned that back into the false dichotomy he needs it to hold. So this is his purpose. I can't remember who it was that brought it up. What's Creaky serving? What purpose does he serve? Someone comes along and says, this woman says that they don't even want it to be their model. What do I do, Creaky? Well, I'll tell her it is her model, whether she likes it or not, and I'll reposition her words to make it seem like she accepts it as her model when she criticises they and their model. Yeah, that's his purpose.
speculation and imagination.
You know, and not only that, but like the money that's being spent on this. Like there are so many practical demonstrations that you could do to prove
Okay, Brian.
other things.
Let's have a little
Calling all diesel Renault, Nissan, Peugeot.
fun. In the comments below this video, you tell me which flat earthers you think this woman is a fan of. I've got some ideas.
Sorry, what's this? Poison in the well? This is poison in the well fallacy. It's very hot here. God, we're going to have to round out soon. I'm starting to find it difficult to concentrate. You know, you're a bit dehydrated and you start to sound a bit drunk. Should really get some more fluids in me.
What are you as?
But instead, you're pouring it into this. Not only that, I mean...
Here's where we deviate in terms of my agreement. He can pour money into whatever he likes. And again, if it turns out to be a sham or a scam, people are, you know, taking their money and paying their choice, or the other way around. In this regard, people can spend their money on whatever they like. If someone wants to go down to Antarctica to check whether or not there's a 24-hour sun, and confirm or deny that there's a 24-hour sun, and indeed then associate that with an affirming the consequent fallacy. You be you know, do what you like, spend your money on whatever you like.
How many people could you help with the kind of money?
I knew it, knew that's where this is going. I don't know what to say. Anything I say in this regard will be extremely detrimental to her and her position. So I'm just going to move on. I'm not going to say anything.
Money it's going to cost him to send all these.
Yeah, I was waiting for you. I was waiting for you originally, Brian. I even called her Brian, hint.
Yeah, and I went off mute and you played on. What can I do?
I didn't hear you, sorry. Go ahead. It's not a Nathan agenda. I'm not trying to shut you down or ignore things you're telling me, either.
I'm just, listen, I'm just pointing out the facts. Yes, she's right. There's a lot of people that money could help. But he's not going to do that. Will Duffy claims that he's willing to pay money to find truth. And I've offered him the opportunity to not go to Antarctica, to not pay for all that stuff. Someone else can do it if they want, I don't care. Or he can do it as well, I don't care. But if he wants objective truths, then he should just pay for the pitch data from several large airlines off of their long-haul flights. And that will, or short-haul, it doesn't matter. And that will show whether they're flying over a globe or over a flat plane. The pitch data is completely objective. It can't be argued with. So if he really wants to spend money and to prove this either way, then that is how you will prove it. And nobody needs to fall off of ice walls. Nobody needs to get lost in Antarctica. You know, nobody needs to take time off work or leave their home and family. Everyone can stay at home, and Will Duffy can save money. And even if he doesn't save money, he won't have to go to Antarctica. So there you go.
These people to Antarctica.
Why do you care what Will Duffy chooses to spend his own money on? Now, would you care this much if you didn't understand?
So why are you misrepresenting? He's inviting people to pay for this trip. What he spends his own money on? There's a very limited amount of Will Duffy's money going on this. Potentially, there could be dozens of people handing over tens of thousands of pounds of their own money for all this endeavour. You know, so in that regard, I don't know about what it could be spent on as an alternative. That's kind of irrelevant, I agree with you. But in terms of whether or not Will Duffy's spending the money, don't misrepresent what's going on here. He's inviting people to do crowdfunding. So what are you talking about?
And that what Will has proposed will absolutely decimate flat Earth and every...
Really? How will it decimate flat Earth? You haven't actually laid out the argument for us. Maybe you could do that for us. I mean, we're only 11 minutes into a 17-minute video. You'd think, given how important you see this is, to the point you said you'd delete your channel over it. I don't know why, other than hiding your embarrassment. But if the importance is so strong, why not tell us how the argument breaks down? Let's see if he does that at all in the entire video. Pound says he doesn't even detail how the argument works.
Everything flat earthers believe?
Because last I heard, there were like 2 flat earthers possibly going.
Quick shout out to Phoenix Rising 86 again. My symbolism goes deeper. Satan tries to be goth and forced to conform, and you could slap AE projections over their heads. I think he's describing the thumbnail he wants me to produce. Thanks, Phoenix Rising. My symbolism goes deeper. He's talking about the goth, Cartman, etc., etc. Stan tries to be goth and forced to conform, and you could slap AE projections over their heads. Gotcha. Thank you for the super chat, Phoenix Rising.
And then like 6 or 7 people from the globe side going.
Well, what a shocker. Another flat earther making a video about the final experiment without knowing exactly what the final experiment is.
I just said that I would put £1 on you not going through it in explicit detail. Maybe I'm going to owe someone £1. Let's see if he goes through it. Hopefully. Oh, I really hope he does.
Will is paying for 1 globe earther and 1 flat earther.
Like, what he's paying for isn't detailing the experiment. You've just put it on your opponent that she doesn't understand. So this would be the absolute appropriate moment to go through what it actually means then. Has he? No, he's detailed what he's going to pay for.
Everyone else who's going is self-funded or crowd-funded.
So yeah, so there's consequences to people other than Will in terms of the financial burden that they may be put under. So we'd need to know all about it. We'd need to scrutinise it if people are going to be raising thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars, potentially of huge crowds of people if it's crowdfunded. You know, that's a huge chunk of money to sink into something that doesn't prove a damn thing. You know, I'm calling it fraud. You seem to be implying that it's somehow Will Duffy on his coin. No, he's inviting people to do crowdfunding for this fraud. Let's make it absolutely clear. This is not an experiment. It's not being even detailed and outlined by this white knight, is it? You haven't detailed it. You haven't outlined what the experiment is. You've just said that Will Duffy's paying for 2 people.
I just think there's so many other things that could be done, you know, and if you're wanting to prove something, then do some proper practical demonstrations, you know, set some things up with the money that are actually going to prove something, because this isn't.
If she says pitch data now, this is a Brian subscriber.
Going to prove anything.
So your idea then is to pretty much do exactly what the final experiment is going to do.
No, she didn't say that at all, but your dumb audience will feel that this ham-handed repositioning of what she didn't say means she said it when she didn't. You're so cag-handed. This is garbage. Did you think that no one would notice this complete failure of a non sequitur? Do you think no one would notice this segue? Had no connection to what she actually said, Creaky. Is it just that your audience needs this bit dealing with?
It's going to prove to flat earthers that their claim about there being no 24-hour sun
on a model that she's objecting to that now is repositioned as her claim for absolute certainty. I said it earlier, and I'll say it again. She's objecting to this. Way to whistle past the graveyard.
is completely false.
So, yeah, I'm a little irritated by all of that, but who am I to tell somebody how to spend their money, right?
Exactly. It's nobody's business except Will Duffy's. Now, would I have spent $100,000 on proving to flat earthers that the earth isn't flat? No, absolutely not.
No, I'll only bleed the money from the algorithm.
I can think of 1,000 better ways to spend that money.
And I get loads of it from the algorithm every time someone looks for flat earth.
If it was my money.
But that I get from the flat earth searches directed my way.
But the fact that it's Will's money means that it's absolutely...
So is it Will's money? We're back to this. Misrepresentation. So the people who crowdfund it, yeah? If someone sets up a GoFundMe tomorrow, and this turns out to be exactly as we've stated, fraud, and affirming the consequent fallacy, a false dichotomy, it's riddled. But people could be burdened financially. You're just making it out like it's just Will's coin. It isn't.
None of my business.
Sometimes the holiday is on the cards, but...
The other thing I wanted to talk about is I have...
Just for your own information, I don't know what this lady's called, but essentially your objection has now been completely glossed over. The very purpose of your video to object to this has been completely sidetracked by Creaky. Ignored, repositioned onto the very thing you're objecting to, and then back on the rails for his own confirmation bias. Yeah, your objection has essentially been hand-waved. Just so you know, you're onto a new subject, but that will just be Creaky's way of editing you into the video to segue away from the fact that he has now effectively completely hand-waved your objection. Just want to make that clear for the audience what's actually happened. Not that it wasn't subtle.
I had a question left on one of my other videos. Actually, it was my last video. So let me read this question to you. So
I should be able to find who this person is, right? He's used huge chunks of her video. So let's see. Where's the link to her video so I can go and give her some love, given that we're watching her material? Has he pinned it in the comments? Where's the link to her material? This is her work. Why isn't he even linked to her? What a scumbag. So you're going to use huge chunks of her work just to misrepresent her, and you're not even going to allow your audience to find her, Creaky. She's a flat earther, so she's suppressed. You've got 86,000 subscribers and you won't even link to her video. So you're making coin off her, you degenerate scumbag. But you won't even link to her. Oh, I see. All right. So the money's got to be flowing in one direction is what you're saying based on your last sentiment and the fact you haven't put a link to this person's video that you've used all the material for. Your video that you're making money from. What a scumbag. What a complete scumbag. I don't know who she is. There's no link. I can't go and give her some love. Tell her that I agreed with a lot of what she said. Can't do that. Link not there. No. Just a load of money-making links for Creaky. What has he put? I've got a link to the final experiment. I see. So this isn't a video that features material from the final experiment, but that's linked. But she's not. I see. I see. That's how it works, is it?
because falling objects are not falling or going down, the Earth cannot be stationary.
Okay, well that wasn't really confusing.
Yeah, absolutely right. He's just used that edit to segue away from the hand wave dismissal that is her objection.
Usingly worded, was it? But it seems to be hinting at gravity and Earth's motion, and what I think they meant is because falling objects appear to fall straight down due...
Releases helium balloon, looks up at clouds. Are you unaware of clouds, Creaky? Yeah? Time in the asylum not served you well? There's clouds. Have you never had a helium balloon? Have you ever let that go? Did it tend towards the ground? Do gases get produced in the sky and tend towards the ground? No, Creaky. You seem very stupid. Not all things go down.
Due to gravity.
Right, what, the going up of a helium balloon, going up of clouds, produced at ground level, gases expanding into the area of volume away from the ground, upwards. These are all things that, what, prove gravity? I'm thinking no, Creaky. I'm thinking no.
Does this mean that the Earth cannot be stationary?
Right, does it mean that it cannot be stationary? Weird phraseology. It's your burden to prove it moves.
Actually, now that I've said it out loud, I'm not sure my version makes any more sense.
No, I said it before you did, didn't I, Creaky? It's because you're dumb. Yeah, formulating coherent sentences isn't your forte.
So let's see what her explanation is.
Why? Wouldn't it be pertinent for you to prove your positive claim that Earth moves, given that that's the only positive assertion being made?
Let's go through this quickly. All right, my hand is the Earth, all right? This is the inanimate object, all right? We see an observation of an object appearing to move down to the ground.
Like a cloud or a helium balloon.
Okay?
No, not all things tend towards the ground. I'm sat in a room currently and I've got a window to the outside world. Two, in fact. Posh. Anyway, nothing's going down. Literally nothing. Anybody on the panel, there's a good chunk of you here. Anybody who is here currently, can anybody describe something in their present peripheral vision or otherwise that is going down? Go.
No, everything is just stationary, except for the
a leaf.
Clouds.
And did you actually witness a leaf? Did you actually witness it?
What?
In this second, you're telling me you're sat by a tree and a leaf fell off it?
Yeah, I'm sitting in the parking lot.
Because we're in fall and the leaves are falling off the trees at the moment.
Just that one.
Did you actually witness it or not?
You want me
Don't
to
be a
take a
liar.
picture? I'll
Shame
take
the
a picture.
devil, Neil. Shame the devil. Did you actually witness this or not in the last 10 seconds?
Yeah, belief. Why? You can't. Why? That's impossible?
No, I'm asking if you actually witnessed it occur in the 10 seconds between me asking and you saying leaf.
No, I didn't just witness it.
So
but
when
I'm
I
saying a leaf
asked,
falls from a tree.
when I specifically asked, in your current environment, is there anything going down? The answer is actually no. Correct, Neil? Why have you just done that?
Correct, negative. That's it
Right, well, why
now.
didn't you just say that?
I didn't hear the first part. I'm in the supermarket.
So you're not near any trees.
Parking lot.
I thought you
Now,
meant in general.
one thing we know beyond a shadow of a doubt, one thing we can know, we see it, there's no denying it. The inanimate object and the earth come together to meet one another.
What? Your headphones? Until you picked them up, they weren't doing anything. They were just sat next to you. So what? The inanimate object that you pick up and drop will move towards the earth. Yeah, it will if you pick up and drop it. So, generally speaking, apart from gas, which is continuously being pumped out of the ground and expanding into the area of volume it has available to it, there aren't any examples.
Well,
what example? Why isn't
Well,
she
the
just
fact
spinning the
that they have to
camera?
make some-
Just let me just finish the point. Why isn't she just spinning the camera around and going, look at that thing that's falling? No, she's got to instigate this synthetically to make her example that's representing the opponent's argument that she doesn't have to represent in any way, shape, or form. It's a non-positive claim that we're not moving. You don't have to prove that. You have to prove that we are. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, the fact that you have to pick something up in the first place means that it's going to go back down. Because if it was going to be going up, you wouldn't have to pick it up. It'd be going up. You have to sail it. Do you know what I mean?
Do you want me to just drag one of my daughter's 8th birthday balloons down from the ceiling? Do I need to do that? I've got to drag it down first, and then when I let it go, it goes up.
Yeah.
Anyway, you don't need to defend this. This is for her benefit more than anybody watching that cares to listen. When it comes to gravity, or Coriolis effect, or Earth turning, or Earth curvature, understand that it is not your burden. Yeah? They need to prove their positive claim. That's it. Now, if the premise of their positive claim is that we've got a gravitational force pulling things towards Earth, that's what Creaky said. Number one, he's dumb. It hasn't been a force for 109 years. And things don't tend towards the ground. The very premise he's postulating is defied by gas behaviour. Well, it hasn't been the case that they assert it in heliocentrism for 109 years anyway. So this is crapshoot on so many levels.
Okay, we know that. We see it, it's there, no denying it.
Now, I don't want to jump the gun and put words in her mouth, but it did sound to me like she's saying that an object falls while the Earth rises and they meet.
She didn't say that at all. You mean when you say, I don't want to put words in her mouth, is that your scumbag way of saying, I am going to put words in this person's mouth that they definitely did not say? You don't want to, but you're going to anyway. What a scumbag. She didn't say that. Literally, she didn't say that. And if she did, you'd have put it in the edit. You didn't, but what you've done is justified your scumbaggery when you put words in her mouth by saying, I don't want to. Well, don't then.
Meet in the middle?
That means that either the object or the earth or both
I take it all back.
have to be in motion to come together and meet.
Right, that doesn't really clarify anything because
Because you've got an Einsteinian concept that you should understand that you don't because you think gravity is a force. Maybe it's E equal mc squared, right, Craig? You dumbass. You listening, Craig?
the Earth is in motion. It rotates once every 24 hours.
But if the Earth was in motion and rotated once every 24 hours, then we'd have a Coriolis deflection as claimed in the heliocentric rhetoric. That would mean there were two reference frames, inertial and non-inertial. Earth being the non-inertial you claim turns about its axis once every 24 hours. That would mean that Earth was turning underneath gyroscopes, pendulums, footballs, bullets, aeroplanes, helicopters, hot air balloons, you if you jump up and down. We'd notice. You'd have deflection, 15 degrees an hour of it, exactly as the globe claims. But what do you know? quote Simandan. You and your reference frames have been ruined, end quote Simandan. There isn't any deviation. We'd notice. That's the claim, that there is 15 degrees an hour of deviation. To claim that Earth's turning underneath as a separate reference frame, yeah, we debunk that. Go ask Simandan. You and your reference frames have been ruined, Creaky.
Then we ask the question, well, how do we determine if it's...
Nathan.
Yes.
Something important. Just, because I had to ask 3 times for you to stop the video. That's just the normal. Because you have bad attitude. An important question. You know the 9.81 meters per second calculation from Charles Vernon Boys?
I am aware.
Yeah. Was there a pre-assumed rotation involved in that calculation? That's something. I tell you why. Because if there was a pre-assumed rotation involved in that calculation, then the calculation is taking into account that the Earth is moving underneath the object within that calculation. If it wasn't, then the calculation is in defiance of a rotating globe.
Absolutely correct. What you're essentially saying is Cavendish and Foucault are in defiance of one another in their methodology. Now, but for the fact that this hasn't been a force for 109 years... This
Not
would
Cavendish.
Yeah, Cavendish.
TV Boys.
No, I meant Cavendish. Listen to what I'm saying. The two would contradict each other. If you're describing Earth rotation, separate reference frames, that's you're confusing me now. I did say Cavendish for that, didn't I?
Yeah, I was talking about CV Boys.
Well, I'm talking about Cavendish. No.
9.81 meters per second.
I'm talking about Foucault and contrasting it with Cavendish. I'll just try that again. So you've thrown me off slightly. If you've got the Coriolis deflection, which is Foucault, then the deviation would be accounted for in CV Boys' rendition of the 9.8 meters per second squared. The two are in contrast with one another, and but for the fact that it hasn't been a force for 109 years, this would be a problem. You're absolutely correct.
Well, if the drop rate calculated by CV Boys does include the Earth claim to rotate underneath the object, and the whole point of it is that it falls so fast that the object falls so fast that the rotation of the Earth underneath the object is nullified, right? Then that would mean that they're claiming that objects that the Earth is rotating underneath anything that's not attached to it. But if, as I pre-assume, there is no rotation taken into account within that paradigm, that isn't direct, which there isn't, because it's for all heights and elevations. So an object falling from a plane down to Earth is not taking, within that calculation, it's not taking Earth rotation into account, which means it's in complete opposition to the claim that Earth does rotate.
Correct. So, in other words, Cavendish and Foucault are in opposition of one another. And as I said, you're absolutely correct. And but for the fact that gravity is a pseudo-Riemannian bent space-time currently, this could and would be a problem. Like mass of gas not going down, go boom, boom. You know, all these things are a problem for a force that isn't a force, when Creaky says it's a force because he hasn't got a clue and isn't educated beyond high school level in gravity. But now he's convoluting that with Coriolis effect. When he talks about Earth rotation, he doesn't know what he's convoluting. We can unpack it. I think he's just done it because he's a moron.
It's the Earth in motion. We can't get outside of the reference frame far enough to see it as a whole.
By the way, she did clarify the motion when he took the mickey out of her, suggesting that Earth would go up. Right, the equivalence principle versus Earth not moving is what she stacked this up as. He's misinterpreted that movement as the only movement he can somehow rationalise in Earth rhetoric, which is Coriolis deflection. But by so doing, he's highlighted to Brian that means that you've got Foucault and Cavendish in opposition to one another in their methodology. Again, I'll say it once more. That would be, but isn't a problem, because Cavendish and the force of gravity, as it used to be called in Newtonian terminology, ascribed in name only, aren't the current rhetoric of gravity anyway. Bent's pseudo-Riemannian force space-time doesn't have this issue.
whole. So how do we make that determination? Well, we look to the object. The object being inanimate.
Yeah, you keep holding up something that you pick up, though. Yeah, that's why I asked everyone around me, other than Neil, the bullshitter, to describe what was going down in their general vicinity.
Tells us that there's nothing within this object, and there's nothing inside of it that gives it the ability to move at will.
Right, I think I can see where this is going, but I don't want to jump the gun, so let's hear her talk for a little bit longer.
Or you could have just played on.
So a force is required to act upon it to make it move down.
Oh, really? So if I was to show you a cloud, that would fundamentally undermine the premise that you suggest must be in place, because not all things tend to the ground. So the suggestion that because all things tend to the ground that's flat in the description of both gravities, that's something that might have slipped everyone by also, that we have to ascribe a force? No, we don't. Not all things tend to the ground. It's medium specific, medium dependent, and doesn't include any forces of anything. Now, if you pick something up and drop it, you're the causal influencer in that. If you just observe gas behavior, it disperses and goes up. But again, undermining the requirement and necessity for the 109-year out-of-date claim to be force, it isn't.
And Nathan, I didn't forget about Einstein, just in case you did. You thought I did it. What you said a second ago there was a little jab at Brian. And is she steel manning their position, or is she making a claim?
I would check on her original video if Creaky had put me a link. But no, it's just his edited misrepresentations without a link to the original so we can assess what she's saying in context. And it's just using her for his own ends. The context can't be clarified. There's no link to her.
What rate is the Earth moving up at?
What?
Go on, Kiwi.
Yeah, is she saying that a force is required for acceleration? Is that what she's saying?
In essence, yes.
Really, what's the force on gas molecules that have them accelerating? I want to know what force that is.
Precisely.
And Nathan,
to make it accelerate.
I'm sorry, I was prejudicing Brian. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. At what rate is the Earth claimed to be moving up at in Einstein's general relativity?
9.8 meters per second squared.
All right, so your little jab at me there a few minutes ago wasn't much of a jab.
It wasn't a jab at you.
There it was. I have no doubt I had that covered before I brought up what I brought up.
No, there wasn't. Any jabs in your direction will be done in the best of humour.
You need a force. So then we go on.
You fell into that one.
Say again.
You fell into that one.
Yeah, right on. Very amusing.
Through many practical demonstrations, like a lot of different demonstrations have been done.
Okay, name 3.
Then we come to the conclusion
baseless assertion fallacy.
That there is no force through all these tests, right? So if we know there is no force...
Now, we knew that already based on gas behaviour, but you said there was tests that you could show invalidated, but you didn't detail any. So, I mean, I can't do anything other than write all of this off as a baseless assertion.
This inanimate object cannot be moving.
You just picked it up, though. Maybe you'll drop it in a minute. We'll see.
Not downward. So the only option that we're left with there, because we know that they meet one another, something has to be in motion.
Here it comes.
If it's not the inanimate object going down, the only thing you're left with is the Earth being in motion.
This is going to be another rock and a hard place situation, because he's either going to deny the equivalence principle or ridicule her. I don't really know where this is going to go. Any predictions? Anybody?
He doesn't know what the equivalence principle is. He doesn't know who Einstein is. He's a moron.
Yeah, I already covered that. I said he's not educated beyond a high school level in gravity. He's already described it as a force. He said it causes the tides. They pull on the tides. It pulls on the tides, sorry.
Who shot his ears with a shotgun?
I don't know.
Yeah, but the opposite of an inanimate object is an animate object. In other words, something that is alive and capable of movement or activity. You know, like plants, animals, and human beings.
Why are we clarifying this particular point exactly? Again, I'm lost in non sequitur.
So is your claim that the flat Earth model, which isn't yours, has somehow found a way to...
So if it isn't hers, why are you asking her about it, you disingenuous scumbag?
magically travel upwards? Okay, how? What exactly is propelling the flat Earth upwards?
Don't know, maybe you want to ask Einstein. You need some smelling salts. But this is Einstein's equivalent principle. The Earth moving up at 9.8 meters per second. Yeah, you're dumb. You don't know what gravity is anymore, do you? You think it's the out-of-date 109-year stuff that you got taught in high school? You dumbo.
That is why it cannot be stationary. Now, as I said in that video, you can either accept the facts as they are, or you can come up with some other crazy explanation for how that object's physically moving down, like Einstein did.
A crazy explanation like Einstein.
Oh, wow, this is going to be epic.
As the woman who is just proposing that the Earth is traveling upwards to meet objects that appear to be falling.
No, you dumbo. That is Einstein. Wow, you're so dumb. He's thick as shit, isn't he? This is your globe representative if you're on the globe side. Yeah? He's out there putting his face on your rhetoric, and he's 109 years out of date and ridiculing Einstein. She's just said that. And he's still going to go to the efforts of ridiculing his own conceptual pseudo-4 space-time bending. Oh my God.
That's how the entire heliocentric spherical ball system
She knows more about this than he does.
Has been held together this entire time.
Yeah, so she's accurately describing something else that she objects to, in this case Einstein, and he's mocking her like she's a Delite. You've very much misread the room here, Creaky.
Yeah, funny, a gravity joke. I see what you did there. Held together.
Is by some nutso explanation by Einstein that he made up in his own mind.
There's no way she's serious. She can't possibly be. So
You've just decried this, by the way, Creaky. So I don't really know where you're going to go from here.
Einstein was nuts, which may or may not be true.
So what about the nutty stuff that you just decried? My God, keep digging, you total dumbo.
Ooh, I don't know. I'm believing that the Earth is...
We know you don't know. Yeah, you've got a high school level education in gravity, my friend. We know you don't know. Yeah, you don't know what to do with any of this, do you? She's better educated in gravity than you are.
It's flat and travelling upwards.
You're flat. You're going to infer this flat. She's not a Delite. She's described Einstein's... Go ahead. Go ahead, Brian.
I'm just saying, she didn't claim at all to be, or he didn't even position her as a Delite. He doesn't realise that Einstein claimed that the Earth is moving up at 9.81 meters per second.
Yeah,
he doesn't realise. He doesn't know that. This is, you know that. This, Kiwi, you're surely going to make a clip out of this where you're going to include that the Dumb and Dumber part where just when I thought you couldn't be any stupider or dumber, you go ahead and totally redeem yourself. I mean, this is the ultimate Dunning-Kruger. I don't think I've ever come across a greater Dunning-Kruger than this. He doesn't know what he's talking about, and he's attacking her as if she doesn't know.
Woods is perfectly sane. Love you, bye.
He's got nothing. That was it. That was the end. What an embarrassing ending. Alrighty then. That was Creaky. Let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. I'll stick a link to his video in the YouTube chat if you're watching live. Go and leave him a kind, polite, non-swear-based comment that indicates that at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me to critique your high school level understanding of your own religion. Please leave him a comment. The hope being that if he was to respond and say, "Oh no, I fully understood that Einstein was the thing that she was ridiculing when that's specifically what she said," then hopefully he'd leave a link to our video in his response, where he failed to for the huge chunks of video that he took from her. You know, there's no link so we can check the authenticity or context of anything that he took from her video, obviously. He linked to the person that he's got a passing description of in the video. That'll be the final experiment, and nothing else. Yeah, he's got his donation there right at the top. What about her? Obviously, he and his own selfish endeavours are all he's interested in when he monetises her material. Wouldn't even give her a link. What a complete scumbag. Please let him know Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me when I shared a link so people could check that I didn't just ignore massive chunks of the video, for instance. You know, you could see in real time exactly what I was covering. But even then, I'll still leave a link. You can see every bit of context in this video. But you can, like I say, toddle along, let him know I sent you when I shared the YouTube algorithmic love that he was so scummy as to not share with the videographer he covered in his video. What a total scumbag. Thick and stupid. Creaky. Hope you realise that.
Is by any chance his shotgun ear holes Irish?
I didn't follow what that meant.
By any chance is shotgun ear holes Irish?
Oh, what an insult. No, he's Welsh.
Is there a difference?
Oh, you couldn't be digging this hole any deeper. But to answer your question, no, they're not different. They're the same.
That's all I had. Thanks.
You want to correct that, Brian? I've left it hanging out there in case you did. Or are you just going to roll your eyes?
Well, I have nothing against the people of Wales, but Creaky Blinder is not Irish. I'd say they don't even want to accept them in Wales.
People are people. The Welsh are no different to the English, the Scottish, or the Irish in many respects. However, we all hate each other. That's not strictly true. The Welsh are all right. The Irish, however, can all go to hell. Same goes for the Scottish. And the French, for that matter. With their Olympic scumbaggery. And don't get me started about the Spanish. Right, any other further comments on the Creaky video? No? Rightio then. With that, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, another massive thank you to all of you. Smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, let Creaky know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.